Welcome to the Listening Platform, where we slow down, reflect, and ease into meaningful conversation with ourselves. I am Guru Subramanian Swaminathan, a coach for life. In this space, we are embarking on a journey to listen deeply to the stories of ordinary people living extraordinary moments. Because I strongly believe that moments become memories with just a dose of intention. So take a deep breath, lean in, let's listen now.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Listening Platform. Today we have a guest, Tanaya Acharekar. Let's introduce Tanaya first. Tanaya, welcome to the Listening Platform. Thanks for accepting and doing podcast with me. Welcome.
Thank you, and welcome to all of the people who are watching or listening to this one. Guru has been a great friend, so of course it's not that formal that he says, "Oh, come on to a podcast," and I have a waiting list. So he said, "Would you like to be?" And yeah, I would definitely like to be a part of this wonderful initiative that Guru has started. So thank you so much for having me in one of your early episodes.
Much appreciated, Tanaya. Thank you so much. Let's start off with probably your introduction. Tanaya, would you like to introduce yourself in your own words, which is more authentic, right?
Yeah, thank you for that. And you will see my eyes wandering in various directions because sometimes I feel it's so difficult to introduce ourselves. Okay. Not because we don't know enough about ourselves, but sometimes I figure out where do I start from? Because when it's introducing about myself, it's definitely about the roles and responsibilities, the roles that I play in both my personal and professional life. But anyways, to start somewhere, I think what's surfacing up right now for me is I'm a mother to a 2.5-year-old son. And professionally, I'm a practicing ICF coach. I started my ICF credentialing learning journey 5 years ago. And yeah, I like the space. I enjoy the space that I'm in. Apart from coaching, I do mentor coaching as well. I am an ICF, ACC, and PCC assessor. I do a lot of one-on-one and group coaching sessions. I have 2 of my companies here in India registered with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And what I do through them is we conduct employee development programs for organizations. So in conjunction with other coaches, I do that. And now, since it's been 5 years and there's been a leap in the career direction and the trajectory, I can say that in my past life, I was a trainer and I was a facilitator. And before that, I was a B school professor. I still continue to, by the way, interview aspirational B school candidates for an executive program for a top-notch institute here in India. And I boast of about interviewing more than 3,000 professionals until date for this program. So this is somewhat that I do. And apart from all this, I love cooking. I love doing a lot of art and DIY for my house, doing it with my son. So that's all about it.
That's really very exhaustive, and some of the things I didn't even know about it, frankly. So you have become both ICF, ACC, and PCC assessor also. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I must have assessed a little over 100 or even more than that assessments now. So
Okay.
Yeah, so the listening platform does resonate with me because I've heard a lot of clients. I've heard a lot of practicing coaches. So yeah, listening does just resonate with.
Awesome. That's great. Okay. Probably we'll start off with the top notch, right? It's the Fortune 500 stuff related. Okay. So you have worked with Fortune 500 leaders, MBA students, and also the grassroots professionals. Now, what does impact truly mean to you at this stage of life?
That is a great question. And I love the question because it says at this stage in life. Because I think as we grow and mature as professionals, our work and the impact means different things to us. When I was proving myself as a good trainer, as a good facilitator, impact meant for me repeat business, the client coming back to me, or they seeing like a tangible outcome. And as I have grown as an individual, as a professional, as a human being, what I feel is the impact is usually quieter. It's not loud, right? So what I see as impact these days is a shift in a leader where he is trying to look at his blind spot. Or a smile on somebody's face, like my client or a participant, when they're talking about their happy memories or their strengths. I feel that is impact. Because now as a coach, I know that when these subtle shifts happen, the changes, or the tangible impact will eventually happen. So I think now I'm able to look for more inner subtle impacts than larger impacts in terms of a feedback or an assessment, or whether they get a promotion or no. I'm able to, gather that courage for myself to just observe these smaller shifts and tell myself, okay, I'm doing a good job if this is happening. And eventually the other tangible things will follow.
Really profound, actually, right? I think when we say impact, it's normally like how big, and it's like, even if it is, when I say big, it's maybe in millions of dollars, or how many number of people you have impacted. But when you say about silence, that's completely different perspective. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And I think it's also, I don't know, again, it could be at this phase in life, and that's why that question tag really resonated, because now, okay, I may not have the fear of being really judged. Couple of times I'm comfortable in my own sleeve, but that is how businesses run and companies run. Like, for I think in more than 3,000 people I've interviewed, 1,500 must have told me that top line is my KPI.
Okay.
So every time you're focusing so much on, the top line, what's happening, how are you quantifying? And this is a never-ending debate about impact and how do you create that difference. But not always, as mature individuals and professionals, we know, not always you can see that. When you start fasting, doing intermittent fasting, yoga, exercise, you immediately don't see a shift in the measurements or kgs on your weighing scale. You just first feel good inside, and that's the starting point. So I think I've, in a way, learned to now detach from the pressure of getting that impact on paper, which is not a magic wand. And I find it hard to convince people that, you can't have an ROI on X amount spent immediately, and it's difficult to quantify. But if you're able to do that critical incident method, if people are able to self-reflect and share with you how they have changed their responses in certain situations, and people do that if I were the version 0 of myself and after coaching this is version 1 coming out, I'm able to handle this differently, I think I've made that impact, right? So yeah.
Awesome. When you said about the insight or the good insight, actually, right? I think what was immediately coming to my mind is one of the LinkedIn posts which was written by one of our colleagues, his name is Gopal Iyer, and he beautifully told about offboarding a person, because every corporation, every organization focuses so much of the onboarding experience. It's not that everybody misses it, but many organizations leave the offboarding part, and the silence and the insights which comes after that, it's actually deafening.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And that's why listening is an important skill. So I'm happy that you've chosen to listen to people through different episodes.
Now you have covered the probably like a grassroots to the leader part, actually. I just want to understand the insight. Now this time it's more of a human insight, actually, across the horizontal, basically, right? I think you have worked upon across industries like oil and gas, retail, IT, healthcare, telecom. So what is that human insight you have found across all these industries?
That's a great question, but don't expect a very big answer, is because it's just simple. People want to be humans. In all the kind of workshops that I've done, I just finished a workshop with a big IT company last week. It's not even a week, rather. And it was after a while that I did a 2-day program. And people want to just be humans. And when I say just be humans, is sometimes we tend to cover ourselves up under the pretext of etiquette. Showing up as a very powerful leader, or showing up as an emotions neutral person when I'm being a board of directors. So that kind of, you step back. But in such spaces, when we just hold space for them, people enjoy doing funny activities, just clapping, giving each other just a clap, or so I think that's, and when people are expressing themselves and they know that this is a safe space. As a coach, I'm not judging them. I'm trying to just hear out without asking them a question. They just express so much.
Okay.
So we say that, if you've heard of the Sigmund Freud iceberg model, right? So what we see of a person is just the tip of an iceberg, and there's so much that lies below. So people actually want to express themselves fully. And I'm so convinced of this idea of bringing my whole self to work.
Okay.
So people actually want to bring their whole selves and express themselves. So I think that's one common thing, whether it being interviews or, whether it being training sessions, facilitation, whether it being coaching, people are yearning to express in a space where they're not judged. and just being held. And once that is done, they know what needs to be done to go where they want to, but they want to offload this weight. And sorry to just add one more element to this.
Please.
There was this experiment, behavioral experiment, I don't remember the name, which is 4 stages of experiment that was done a couple of years ago in a Western electric company or something like that. And they conducted mass interviews. They allowed these females on the assembly lines to go and check on their sons and daughters in the crash and all of that. There was one set of interviews in which the employees' performance improved by just knowing the fact that they are being observed and they are being asked what their problem is. It's called the Hawthorne experiments, I remembered.
Okay.
So the fact is, it's since then, like the very fact that people are observing you and they're asking you what the problem is just makes them feel motivated and good because they're just being heard. So I think that's the basic need that I've seen, and again, coming back. And that's why I think listening is going to be one of the top skills that human beings would need to survive in peace in the next couple of years.
In a very common man way, we hear this, right? I think God has given one mouth and 2 ears actually, so that we can listen more.
Yeah.
And coming to the listening part, right? I think you have been a coach, and you are also a mentor coach actually. Now, when you say that you are holding space without judgment and you are listening to the people, what do you actually do when you say you listen? It's a word, right? But what do you actually do?
Good question, because it's a word is less of a thing to say about it because there is so much happening inside of us. And I'm trying to just unpack this a little bit and decode this. Is for others, it may seem that I'm just looking at you and trying to listen. For me, what's happening is what you're saying is triggering a couple of thoughts in my mind relating to my past clients, my past memories, something that I read, something that I heard. There are some judgments that may come through because I'm a human being and my brain also does make associations like your brain does. What I'm doing at that point in time is very fast having that self-talk, telling myself, I'm a coach, I'm supposed to shoot this data aside and try to just pay attention to what's happening. So all this work happens like really, really very fast. And when you see that I'm listening or I'm looking at the person, and what I'm then trying to reach to a level is, I try to forget all the words, all the proper nouns, and whatever details and the client names that my client is mentioning, but focus on what the music behind the words is. So what's playing in the background? In the sense, what shifts does a person experience when he touches a specific topic? Or is there any inner critic of the person that is standing out? Or what may be the wisdom that the person may have beneath the doubts he is expressing or she is expressing? So I think that's something that I'm looking at, because these are subtler and powerful things that if I'm able to pick up as a coach, that may lead to further transformation.
Okay. Now, in your L&D phase as a learning and development manager during the initial years, and now as a coach, where you're dealing with, let's call them as clients, the regular people basically, now through organizations actually, right? There could have been many, many moments where you're seeing the shift. Let's call it as the change has happened. Now, are there any moments of all these things where you felt so humble? Is there any moment you can share with us?
Yeah. Thank you for that question, because that also makes me feel humble right now, acknowledging where I started and where I am right now. So these were my initial years of training. And there was a communication workshop that I was doing for an IT company for 2 days. And there was this, and in trainers' terminology, we call them the elephant in the room, right? So there was this one person who is almost disagreeing or rather challenging everything that I speak. Okay. Now, I come with very little corporate experience, but more of a service industry experience and everything to do with behavioral skills and all of that. And so there's a different perspective we have when we share things. And this person was being always defending and challenging. The day one passed. And I also tried to defend. And I tried to protect myself because I was a trainer, and maybe just with 3-4 years of experience then after I quit my academic role. And then the next day, I decided I can't stand up to this person's challenge. So I have to let go at the end because I couldn't fight anymore per se and challenge. And then I gave up. You know what happened after I gave up? And I invited him. Why don't you share some of these workplace scenarios and how would you handle it? And how do you want to relate this to the concept and something like that? And he took charge. And believe me or not, there was so much of insightful and rich discussion that happened, and I was almost invisible. And that is the day I realized my job is not of an academician, which I was a few years ago before I stepped into a trainer, but my role is to be facilitating and bringing out wisdom in the room, because the real transformation or the change will happen from and with people present in that room, not because of somebody who's present in front of that room.
Got it.
And that is what I remember till now. And then I don't defend myself, because it's practically not possible, of course, for me to know what's happening in pharma and all of that and all those industries. And I don't want to go and show up even as an expert in coaching for that matter. I'm just here to open up that space. So I think that incident constantly reminds me, if at any point in time I have an elephant in the room, I let them just take over. But most often they have positive intentions.
Correct.
So letting go has been humbling for me.
Great insight. Thank you. Now, with respect to our audience, I think they are around, I would say, like 34 to around 45. That's the age group they are watching this channel, at least for the last 1 month, I would say. And it's a healthy mix of both genders, and across India, Australia, and US actually. In 2025, where we are at this point in time, currently hearing about layoffs and challenges in the corporate world, and also considering the age group actually, right? So many of them may be going through some of the career transition in their life, whether it is a promotion or sticking to the same job, or trying to survive in the same job, basically, right? Now, as a coach, what is that you can tell to help them or support them?
Yeah, again, great question, because I had this session with talent acquisition professionals last week that I'm talking to you about. And there has been so much change in the entire hiring landscape over the last few years. And it's changed not only about the hiring landscape, it has been a change in the industry because of the high demands in terms of multi-skilling and versatility, and then AI coming in. People at the same time, and Gen Z especially, not interested in linear profiles, but they want to try out different things, have clarity about their package that they want, the work-life balance that they seek, the challenge that they want. So there is so much that is different from the times probably our parents were employed and we started working, and now, the new generation coming in. What is one thing that would help us anchor ourselves is a little bit of inner work, I believe, for everybody. And that by inner work, I mean knowing your core values and your mission in life. What are the roles and responsibilities that you have as a parent, as a son or a daughter, as a spouse, everything, and what are your current priorities? And these priorities will keep changing every 5 years. More time for your kids, more time for your health, more time to, make your investments and accumulate wealth. So it's got to be different. Having clarity and constant revisiting this will help. And a personal example I'd like to give is, this was 2.5 years ago, before my son was born. And I was pregnant that time. And I got an offer from, one of the big consulting firms here in India to become a full-time coach with them.
Okay.
Now, this was a great opportunity for me because, as I said, I don't have like a wealth of corporate experience. If I envisioned myself as an ICF PCC and the brand name associated with this company, I would do wonders in my coaching practice. And I was almost like on the 90th cloud, And the offer was almost of a similar senior position, that one of my acquaintances and relatives did. So I thought, now he or she is at that position in this one consulting firm, and I will be at this position. So it's good also to just show up, because sometimes people don't understand what I do when I sit in front of the computer for hours in a day. So I thought I'll also get a social validation. I'll get that corporate fixed salary. It was work from home. It was 5 days a week, and it was 9 to 5. I was reporting to an office in Hyderabad. And I'm like, what else do you want, right? 2 days I slept over it. And I shared with my parents, I shared with my husband and all of that. And it seemed like a win-win. And then I said, now I'm a coach, right? Trained to coach. So let me go back to my values and check. So I'd done my value work in 2020 when I actually started my training. And I revisited that Excel file. And my first value said that my first value is autonomy. And my second value is achievement. And I'm like, my autonomy is just going to die because every day I will be reporting at a 9 a.m. call. will not have that flexibility. And why in 2014 did I quit my full-time job? Because I didn't feel like doing the same thing every day.
Okay.
And then I realized, okay, these are all the fringe benefits that I'm looking at. Or I'm trying to fill up some of the voids that I feel right now that I don't have a brand name and all of that. So what I'm trying, and then of course I had to say no. The third day, I just wrote them a very polite mail and I told them, whatever, this is not doable, all of that. And the kind of exposure that I had through my own business, no restrictions, I can speak and take assignments at US, Canada, Jordan, Dubai, wherever. Once you get associated with an organization, all that autonomy and freedom and whatever I build would just close. And what if I had to continue for a year or so and realize that I'm not liking it? Whatever I built for so many years, it takes a pause, right? And people said once the shop is closed for a couple of days, customers stop coming there, right? So this value work helped me to get back on track, anchor myself. It gave me the courage to let go something and start something. And that's why I say that if you're looking for a career change or a transition, or you're finding meaning in your work, your own anchors will be your own values, your own missions in life. The generic help on Google may not help because your situation is unique to you. So I would say that get a coach, spend some time reflecting, get a support from community, get guidance, get a mentor for yourself, and keep trying new things in a safe zone. Little investment, more guidance, keep your job and try something on the side if you want to. So you can always do that. And if you're experiencing fear, to step out of your current zone, or it means that you're overstretching and overthinking, because clarity does not come from overthinking, it comes from movement. So you have to keep acting, and that will get you more clarity, because most people have that analysis paralysis. What if this happens, that happens, what if, and they just stop where they are. So I would suggest, clarity comes with movement. So stop thinking and start acting.
That's so much of information, Naya. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I'm not trying to summarize it, but I think for a person who is in that state, I think probably start at least with a basic question: what is my core values?
Yeah.
If you know what it is, absolutely fine. But if you do not know, that is also absolutely good. But at least do that action of movement by speaking with somebody with you whom you know, or reach out to your coach, because there is always a hesitation saying that, right? I think in terms of reaching out to your coach means like how much the person is going to charge and things like that. Actually, there's a lot of hesitation around that. Also, I also see here, but probably somebody has to take that plunge and then send that DM or pick up a call and speak to some person actually to make that start.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, and ironically, Guru, what I feel, is sometimes we say that all the material things act as security for us. Secured income, having my own house, having a stable job. But if you really think deeper, beyond a certain extent, if you focus on these things, they actually are your traps. Because you're not ready to give up that stable income to try a new business. You don't want to show your authentic self at work because your promotion or your impression will be affected. So when you start focusing on it too much, it actually becomes your trap then, securing you. So I think that's an invitation for all the listeners to just relook at these, and to what extent are they serving you, and beyond that, if you want to just kind of, reassess.
Okay. Thank you so much on that. Now, you have sat across probably like 3,000 plus candidates when they apply for like MBA professionals, interview panelists actually.
Yeah.
Now, if you have to pick probably like 3 characters or 3 qualities, let's say qualities from these high potential candidates, what does it will be actually?
Good question. Because it's been 6 years now. I started this in 2019 June, so it's 25 July as we speak. 6 years, 3,000 plus candidates. And what I'm looking at now to start with is a little bit of self-awareness. And that self-awareness shows up. What words do you use? Are you being on time? What kind of listener you are when I brief you on what to expect before we start our conversation? So it shows in all these scenarios. Awareness about where I see myself and, what value will I add if I join this program? Why do I want to do this program? So a little bit of self-awareness and clarity is something, because I'm sure nobody loves to follow or listen to confused leaders. Having that self-awareness and clarity in oneself. The second thing that's coming up for me is a sense of ownership. If things don't work, they will make it work. I read this line somewhere and I don't remember who the author is. And it said that change does not start when circumstances change. Change starts when you decide to change the circumstances. So for me, that's ownership, that I will take charge, and I will be there. So I think that's the second thing that's coming up for me. And the third thing is adaptability and flexibility or agility. Things are changing so fast, like, skill wise, or as a person, behavior wise, we all have to be ready to adapt. What impression would you have of me if I tell you that I don't know any of the AI chatbots? I don't even know what AI is, right? Because you can't survive in this world without accepting new things. I'm sure, Guru, you will relate to this, that I think 15 years ago, our parents didn't know WhatsApp. But now if they have to speak to us or they have to speak to their grandchildren, they have to use WhatsApp because that's the only way they could do a video call, right? So I think change is the only thing that's constant. So these are the three things I would look at: self-awareness, taking ownership, and being adaptable and being agile.
I appreciate what you have said, but I'm just stuck in one of the conversation I had probably last week. The exact thing what you told just now. I met a person who said, I don't know about AI, and his career has actually stagnated with all the fixed things you mentioned in the previous question, right? I think good car, good income, good position. With that trap, the person did not invest much into his career actually, and it's going through a bit of a challenging. I hope he gets something and gets settled down very quickly. But that's I'm really surprised that it came up in your conversation also now. So that's something that just struck me now. I thought I'll just share it with you.
Yeah, thank you. And see, that would be one example. I mean, you can still survive without not knowing AI, but you should also at least update yourself about what's going. You can create something in the sustainability space. You can recycle the waste. I know somebody who recycles all the Lay's chips and whatever chips, Uncle Chips, whatever packets we use. And whatever is the packets, they kind of create fibers and they create handbags from them. I don't know if they use air or I don't know what do they use, but what they're trying to do is they're going to adapt. Okay, we could make cotton bags, jute bags a couple of years ago, but if this is something that's not being decomposed, let me make bags out of this. So I think if we have to survive, we have to adapt and change, because it just makes life easy and better for us in a way that it helps us, and we are able to help others because we are able to find solutions to the new coming problems. So we can't remain stuck in the 80s or the 70s or the 2000s that way.
That's correct. Thank you. Now, I just want to move towards your personal side of things, if that's okay. Now,
yeah, sure.
Your career and your life has not been very linear, actually. It has been into multiple phases of career, multiple phases of personal life has happened, actually, right? Now, you have moved across cities, across different countries, and being a mother of the child now, what are those inner strength which you practice or helps you to anchor yourself?
That smile, because for people who are looking at me right now, it probably comes across as all is well. But it's not easy. And it's easy for nobody, not the mother of the child, not the father of the child. Like I have my husband who's equally contributing to what we are doing for our son, trying to give him as much exposure and experience and taking care of the family time, habits, all of that. And both of us are also wanting to focus on our professional selves, where both of us are doing really good. And we also want to focus on the exercise and the health part of it and maintaining our social responsibilities and the circle. So it's tough. It's tough a little bit for me because I've had a non-linear path per se, and I'm not in a job. So I may not have that backing where there's a consistent income, or there is a position that I have, and I have a team who does things for me, through the hierarchy. Really, I work with contractors. So there's a little bit of more challenge when it comes to that. I was in the US for 2 years, then we moved to Mumbai. Then I came back to Pune here now 6-7 months ago. We just moved in. It was tough. It was tough because I thought, okay, I'm leaving Mumbai. I don't know when will I be back. What will happen to my well-established connects and business? I then did not have a work permit in the US, which I got after 6 months, and I started looking for clients there. I held on to those clients when I came back to India. But to answer your question is, and then of course I was pregnant, I had my son, and now he has different demands and expectations. So to answer your question, again, acknowledge that I feel this. I sometimes feel stuck as a professional because I have to take care of so many things. I might not have favorable situations always. We have old parents, and there is sickness, and there are so many things that we have to tend to, right? You buy a house, and then there is other work that you have to focus on. But amongst all of this, I always ask myself, for how long is this going to last? And the answer is next 6 months, 7 months, the house will be ready, this move will be done, so there is always an end. I know this is not permanent, so that is reassuring. The second thing is, I tell myself, now it's been 17 years that I've been working, and I think 13 years that I've been freelancing and working on my own. And then I tell myself, if I survive for 13 years, I can survive for some more years, right? So I know that there is going to be income uncertainty. Your payment comes after a couple of months sometimes, and sometimes a year or so. The lead time is very high, all of that. But I strongly believe in the effect of compounding. An effect of compounding in terms of build the relationships, business will happen later. Start good habits, change will happen later. Start reading, you will become knowledgeable a little later. But start things. And now over these 13, 14 years, I'm realizing, okay, work is coming from here. I didn't even ask for this work. One of my friends is recommending, because now that compounding seems to have started. But I had to invest a lot in these years. And now, even when I see for that work or those kind of assignments which I feel I deserve now, I'm just sowing the seeds. I don't know, when will that turn up? Because we say that the bees arrive when the flower blooms. So if the bees are yet not arriving, the flower is yet to bloom. So there is more work that I need to do on myself. I'm not ready. I'm not yet ready, so there's more insight that, I get that I need to still work on myself. So to answer your question, asking myself for how long this will last, and if I've done this in the past, I can still do it in the future. And I always look at the strengths that I have. We all have some kind of strengths, and that could be connections, that could be communication, that could be investors, that could be anything. I mean, your friends, your family to support. See how they could play in. And my strategy to survive in this world, honestly, is somehow I don't like to do things that others do. So I automatically think of something different. And that works for me because people find that it's a unique offering, and it just satisfies the creative skill that I have. So, I mean, for people, if you want to do something that somebody else has done, just seek help, get mentorship, ask out, and people are more than willing to help, support. And there are different phases in life also, like there might be a family change, there might be a trauma, situations happen and that impact how we show up professionally. It's okay to just ask for help. And I would always suggest that stay away from asking too much to your immediate family members. Also because there's a lot of bias involved. Sometimes, a role bias. Like I ask my mother, she will say from, her role as a mother, not as an independent professional. And I might overcome that situation and forget it, but my mother remembers that. And that comes in our interaction, 5 years later. Doesn't make sense, and they get bothered and worried.
Remember, right?
So I've decided it's good to seek independent professionals' help because they also show us the mirror. And that could be not only a coach, a therapist, a consultant, whoever you feel could help, a counselor for that matter. Any third person who does not have a vested interest in your situation and in your life, knows nobody in your immediate circle and family, a trusted known source, I think is always good to just get help. Unfortunately, we are in that era where people are just a call or a ping away. That was not the situation 20 years ago. You can now get help globally via Zoom, and so let's leverage that for us.
Absolutely. I mean, even in my own circles, there are so many people who are hesitant to ask help. Actually, I won't even say help. Hesitant to share their information, and not with me or anybody where I'm referring to, but with their own close friends, but they just suffer in silence actually, which is so difficult to see. It's a good point. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I know you have been holding space for many other clients. Now, who holds space for you?
Yeah, that's a tough question for two reasons. Sometimes it does become difficult to ask for help because I feel, I can self-coach myself, right? There's a lot of awareness that comes in and all of that. The other thing is it's difficult also because then as a coach, my expectations rise. How should my coach be or my mentor be? So it's a difficult situation. But having said that, I'm always eager to ask for help because I'm surrounded by that fraternity always. That's a part of my connection. But again, to anchor myself and to hold myself there, I spend time with my hobbies. And that's about, I'm going to be making a Ganesha idol now since Ganesh Chaturthi is a month ago. So I think just indulging myself in cooking or doing these activities helps me neutralize that emotional high, zoom out and look at the situation from a distance, because in that moment you're really, probably upset or fuming in anger and all of that. So I ensure that no matter what, every day I spend time on things that I love. And cooking might be a mundane task for others, but for me it's therapy. So I cook for my family every single day. And that's how I end my day, by prepping for the next day. And that time with earphones, and I'm doing that meal prep, it's just so relaxing. And then simultaneously I'm just reflecting on what happened and all of that. So because I'm an introverted person, I love to hold space for myself through activities that I like to indulge in. But having said that, when I feel that I'm stuck and I can't find help that I need in terms of resources or connects or so, I have a beautiful network of women, a network of coaches, and all these groups that I'm a part of. So I know that help is a message away.
That's a great way of holding yourself, actually, in whichever way, which is more rewarding for you.
Yeah.
Excellent. One last question, Tanaya. I know we are out of time, but one last question, which is still lingering in my mind in terms of the core values, right? How does one actually go about finding that core values? Because the reason I'm asking is that the way probably I have been brought up, and many in our generation has been brought up, is values is basically it's more towards religion. Like if you're a Hindu, is basically whatever is around that religion. So that's what is normally values. We all know, but I think you are meaning the core value in a different way, right? Would you be able to explain it a little bit more?
Yeah. So my value is a principle that I abide to irrespective of any situation in life. Okay. And how do I know my values? A coach can guide you to get through various assessments that you have online, like a Barrett assessment, and there are a couple of things, other links that you can do your free values assessment. Okay. And a coach can help you with interpreting those. But apart from that, if you recollect most of your happiest moments or most of your saddest moments in life, those are the encounters where your values were met or your values were attacked.
All right. Okay.
So, and once you start thinking about all these incidents, you will realize there are not more than 4 or 5 or 6 of your core values. So when I stood first, I topped my university, that's the memory that I have. And now you know that my core value is achievement. When I topped my university, that's a memory that I have. And at the same time, in and autonomy, So I think, and the most saddest thing that I had in my college is in one of the semesters, I topped all my semesters. In one of the semesters, I stood third. Okay. And I couldn't deal with that. After the results were declared, I left college to go home. And otherwise, I had like 100% attendance. And now as a coach, when I look back, I realized because achievement is my value and I stood third, I couldn't face it.
Okay.
Right. So some incidences will help you remind that why. So if you can ask yourself 5 times why, 7 times why about your reaction to a certain good incident or a untoward or a sad incident, you can actually figure out, what's that thing that's making you feel at most happy. Okay, you stood first in the university, that made you feel happy. Why? Because others appreciated that. Why is that important for you? Because I like to be on the top of the thing. So you might get that answer on the 3rd why or the 5th why or the 7th why, whatever. But digging deeper. And for all, and that's what we follow in coaching as well, right? To figure out your values or your emotional triggers. A lot of observation about your own behavior and reaction to situations will give you a summary of all of these toward the end of a month or 3 weeks or so. So basically doing analysis of all the critical incidents through the day or through your past.
Yeah.
And your values don't change. Through your life. So that's very, very important, because you see all this coming up when you were 10 years old, when you were 25, when you're 35. So you will see that commonality, and that is the sign that it is a value.
Okay, got it. And I would say that it's scary to know these values to start with, but once you know what it is, you'll settle down. Again, just from the audience perspective, I think one thing which I normally suggest to the people is, even from the students' perspective, right? I suggest Clifton strengths. It's something very basic actually. Normally, Clifton, Strengths, etc., Clifton, Gallup, we hear when we get into the corporate world actually. But if you can do for the students now, at least you get a baseline of where they are, what they are, and it really gives some inputs to shape up their career actually. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
so much,
important for
Tanaya.
all of us to know that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tanaya, for your time. I think it has become more like a coaching conversation at this point in time. But thank you so much for it. I'm much appreciated.
Thank you so much, Guru, for having me here. I just did not realize how time flew. So again, thank you so much, and wishing all the listeners all the best in whatever is coming up for you. And if you're stuck somewhere, reach out to a trusted partner in your life. Our best wishes.
Thank you.